WHPC. I'm Jacob Valk. You can follow me on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Excuse me. Sitting across from me, Brandon Johnson. You can follow on Twitter at StephJohnson_. And Dominick Arbolino, who you can follow on Twitter at Darbs5258. Number to call, if you have something on your mind, is 516-572-7440. And let's get to football. Since Eric is out today, there are more Jet fans here than Giant fans.
Yeah.
So we get to talk about the Jets.
Talk about those whack Jets.
Jets. Just endure the suffering. Jamal Adams came under fire for saying, and I quote, "Literally, if I had a perfect place to die, I'd die on the football field." He then clarified that, and I quote, "My comment was simply for passion, nothing else." Dominic, what do you think of your boy's remarks?
You know, I don't like how it's such a big deal, to be honest with you. I definitely don't like that at all. I mean, I feel like it's just something that shouldn't... I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't have exploded as much as it did. I mean, I understand the downside to it of what he said, but at the same time, it just shows his passion for the sport and that he doesn't care about what's going on with the injuries that all the the retired players are getting. He doesn't care about that. He's going to play his heart out, and if it happens, it happens. And I understand the negative part of it, but I feel like it's blowing up too much.
We do have a caller on the line. Caller, you're on Beyond the Game.
What's going on, guys? It's Alex.
Hey, Alex. How are you, buddy?
I'm chilling, guys. So I just wanted to get your thoughts before I go back into work. What do you think about the Le'Veon Bell situation? The Steelers offered him $12 million a year, but apparently he wants a lot more than that.
Well, I think that's pretty low. Yeah.
I mean,
actually...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy's making only like $8.8 million, I think, or 9.8, something like that. So he would be the highest paid running back in the league.
It's difficult to say, Alex, because you look at a guy like, for instance, Adrian Peterson. He was making close to, $18 million, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's a very high number. And Le'Veon Bell has been proven to be a great player in this league, especially at the running back position. He's playing H-back. He's coming out of the backfield, catching passes. He's cutting between, tackles, getting extra yards from the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's the ultimate running back. And you want a guy like that, 6'2", physical, who can get you some great yards, score some touchdowns. And I feel like that's a great deal. I mean, if he wants more, I don't know. I mean, something should be able to work out.
I mean, I think the Steelers are going to eventually give it to him, but I think just the biggest concern right now is that they want him to prove himself more. If he wants us more money, this is the year to prove it. It's your contract year, and especially that you've had all the situations with him, whether he's been suspended,
yeah, you're right,
or just being injured. So they want to make sure, let's see what he could do this year. And then if they don't lock up Le'Veon Bell, if they for some reason, if he was to fall to free agency, that is a terrible move for the franchise because you have your star running back right there for years to come. So if they definitely will lock him in, I'm sure of it that they'll definitely work something out. But I think it's just the reason is that they want him to prove himself and realize, stay away from the drugs if that was the problem or whatever it was. They just want to make sure before they give him his money he wants that he's the guy and he deserves it.
I still thought he had a great year last year.
Oh, of course he did. He's been a great running back. He's arguably one of the top running backs. Personally, I think it's David Johnson, but I mean, it's just
definitely top
he was
five.
Nice too. Yeah,
100%. I think he's top 3.
Top 3, yeah. I'll give you top 3.
Definitely would do that. Yeah,
but I like Le'Veon Bell. Do I think he's worth $12 million a year? Yeah, I could even make the argument he's worth $15 million a year. I mean, the Steelers are in a rough spot with Le'Veon Bell. Contract negotiations can get pretty tough. You're seeing it with the Jets with Sheldon Richardson, a talent like him who had a horrible year and is cancer in the locker room. But let's face it, he is a talent. And Le'Veon Bell has his off-the-field concerns too.
True.
So it's really dicey what the Steelers are going to do. At the end of the day, as a Steeler fan, I wouldn't be too worried.
You got to be worried about Big Ben, though.
Yeah, that's
possibly
true,
too. So
this might be his last year. What are they going to do at quarterback?
I know.
They're going to go with Christian Hackenberg?
I thought Landry Jones he played well in Ben's absence.
Landry Jones is...
I always liked Landry Jones, even coming out of Oklahoma.
You think so? Yeah.
I always liked him. I'm not going to say definitively that he's going to be their starter, but I don't think he'd embarrass himself.
No, not at all.
So, going back to the Jets with Jamal Adams, I understand why people are upset. There was a study that came out recently that said that 110 out of 111 deceased NFL players' brains had traces of CTE. So, listen, head trauma is such an important issue. And for Jamal Adams to say something like this, I can understand why people would be upset. Now, this is the kind of guy that I want on my football team. Mm-hmm. I don't want him to die on the field. I don't want him to be paralyzed on the field.
Like exactly. He didn't mean it like
I don't want him to do his best Dennis Byrd impression and end up being paralyzed. But I love his passion for the game. Mm-hmm. I love his commitment. At the end of the day, if you went down the list of first-round rookies, second-round rookies, third-round rookies this year, they'd probably say that they're willing to go to the extremes when it comes to their body in terms of playing the game they love. Mm-hmm. I mean, these players train for years to get to this point. And the chance that they might get CTE, granted, it's a high chance. I'm not saying it's not. But it's still a chance. There's that one brain there that didn't have CTE. And I would love to know who that brain belonged to. And I would love to know the other risks. Is drinking a factor? Is smoking a factor? Is weight a factor? Yes, head trauma is an important issue. We all saw the movie Concussion. We all saw the Frontline documentary on it. The NFL covered this up for years. Yep. The NFL are not saints in this situation, believe me. But I totally understand why a player would be willing to, quote unquote, put his life on the line. And again, this is the kind of guy I like.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the kind of guy I want on my team.
And I feel like that concussion stuff is really, true about what they say in the research, because when you think about it, our bodies weren't made to be clanging at each other with heads, regardless if we have a helmet on. And I know they got the new Revolution helmets that have cushion pads and all that good stuff, but it's still not natural for us to be doing this. So you got to take this as a serious matter. Now I'm saying for Jamal Adams' case, I'm just saying when it comes to
the NFL in general, of course.
But they want to cover it up and make billions, so that's what it's all about.
Of course. It's an ongoing problem that is going to be very hard to fix. That realistically, there really isn't a way to fix it.
Bingo! Bingo! You hit the nail on the head. There's no way to fix this.
Unless you wear bubble wrap all around your body. Like, I know.
Do you watch South Park?
No.
But you don't. They had an episode, Sarcastaball, which was essentially football for pansies. That's what people want football to become. It will never be 100% safe. Football is inherently violent.
Yeah, always.
Unless you're turning it into touch football, there are going to be injuries. And you've taken away the head. You've taken away the hits up high. There are now injuries to the leg at a record pace.
Yeah.
This is insane to see. If you take away up high, you're going to go down low. And what would you rather have happen? High or low? Which one would you rather see go?
Low.
You'd rather go low? Then your career's over. Then you're missing a year.
But I have my head.
You have your head.
I have my mind.
You have your mind. But keep this in mind, though. You got to keep this in mind. When it's, no pun intended, when it's your leg, that's it. You're out for the year. And odds are you're not going to come back the same way. When it's the head, yeah, you're woozy for a little bit. You should be out a couple weeks. But you should be back in there.
I got you.
Pretty soon, like 2 or 3 weeks at the most, maybe, with that concussion protocol.
And plus, you see your point right now with Ryan Tannehill. Exactly. He tore that ACL, and then here we go. You never know. And then it's never going to be the same. And you see it a lot with all these players. I'm trying to think of another player.
Forrest Lamp tore his ACL, too, for the Chargers.
Yeah, and then also didn't Jamal Adams last year... I mean, not Jamal Adams. Oh, Jamal Charles. Excuse me.
Jamal Charles. Yeah.
Jamal Charles.
I was I didn't remember
he's not
Jamal
the
Adams.
same. He's not the same.
No, of course not.
I don't want to make this an ongoing conversation because I know.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I just feel like when we talk about concussions compared to being knocked out in the legs, at the end of the day, I'm gonna have my mind with me. It's gonna be set, and I'm gonna be able to potentially live longer, compared to your leg. I mean, I understand that's a part of your body that you have to move every day with, but your mind can, possess many bad thoughts in your head.
Let me ask you a question. If you were to go to 100 NFL players and ask them, would you rather get a concussion or a torn ACL? What do you think the percentage split would be?
Yeah, of course.
No, really, what do you think the percentage would be? Would it be 50-50, 75-25? What do you think it would be? There's no wrong answer.
80-20, probably 80-20.
80-20 in favor of what?
In favor of the concussion. Because they still want to play football.
That's why there's no issue with Jamal Adams' comment.
Got you.
The bleeding heart liberal social justice warriors are trying to make this guy out as a thug, as a horrible person.
Exactly.
No,
and also Morris Claiborne said it too.
He's passionate. That's all this is.
That's all it is, yeah.
But that's all the critics and people do, like on Twitter and all that stuff. They just try and make the player look bad. And you see it with so many cases, not just Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
You're 100% right, Dominic. So, speaking of the Jets, according to Manish Mehta of the Daily News, Sheldon Richardson implied that he'd have been traded to either the Redskins or the Seahawks if he'd have taken a pay cut. This year, he's due to make $8.1 million. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Let me tell you, as much as he's been like a cancer in the locker room, and he didn't really have a great year last year, I honestly feel like I've been looking at training camp. You see with both Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson, they slimmed down. They seem a lot faster in just their practices, which is really scary because to think of those two big guys, the size that they are, actually kind of going fast, that's very scary to think of for an offensive lineman's sake. But
there's. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
But there's no doubting Sheldon Richardson's on the field talent. The guy is a very good defensive lineman. When it comes to pass rush, he can be better. Horrible pass rusher last year. Rush defense, he was very good. And I'd have gotten rid of Sheldon Richardson. Believe me, I would have.
Well, no, trust me. We went over that, and we thought that it was going to happen this year, especially. Yeah. We thought it was going to be whether it's on draft day or before draft day.
I always thought that before this report came out by Mehta, who, by the way, I like. He gets a lot of flack on Jets
Really?
Twitter. You don't like Mehta?
No, he always he has to. There's never a good thing he could say. It's always
the Jets. What do you want him to do?
Yes, but then sometimes he'll create the most random things that it's just like, come on, man.
That's the Daily News for you.
I don't like him.
Okay. Well, anyway, before this report came out, I was under the assumption that McCagnon was asking for too much. I was under the assumption he was asking for the moon. Now that I hear that the Redskins and the Seahawks agreed to terms on a trade, I have a little more faith in McCagnon. I actually do. I know I'm sort of flipping my script a little bit here, but I don't think that the Harris and the Decker cuts, which really bugged me, were McCagnon's doing. I think that was more Woody's doing. Yeah. And by the way, Woody Johnson, stay over in the United Kingdom. When Donald Trump is no longer president, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or sooner, please stay in the United Kingdom. I will pay for your rent. Get away from the Jets. You are a horrible owner. You're one of the worst owners in the NFL. Your younger brother can't do any worse. He definitely does not have a high bar to live up to, boy. Let me tell you.
Let me just say this, though, before we get to the next topic. I definitely think that it's Sheldon Richardson's contract year. I think if he wants any future with the Jets, is that he's going to have to prove it this year. And he's going to have to prove that his temper or just his chemistry with the other players has to change. And I think that's the only way he gets.
I don't think it will. I commend him for slimming down. I do think Sheldon Richardson wants to be a premier talent in this league. But you know who else is a premier talent in this league? Brandon Marshall. He has off-the-field concerns, too. That's Sheldon Richardson.
Brandon Marshall is one of the fakest players in the NFL. Let me say that right now.
You weren't saying that when he was with the Jets.
Oh, hey. I know he was. I wasn't. But think about it.
Well, come on, man. That's Jet homerism right there.
There's always been a problem wherever team he's been. And I'm telling you, watch this. Whenever he's done with the Giants, I bet he'll be talking trash about Odell. And I cannot say it enough.
Hey,
even though
I can't wait for his book. Yeah. If Brandon Marshall ever writes a book, I want to buy it.
I'm pretty sure.
And look, I'm not saying that. I love Brandon Marshall as a Jet, and he is a great football player. But it's just you've honestly seen it in every team that he's gone to. There's been a problem.
That was the point I was making. There's always an issue with him. He's a premier talent. It's the same thing with Sheldon Richardson. And when you have a horrible coach like Todd Bowles, you're not going to be able to keep Richardson's head on straight. He's going to end up infecting the locker room. Muhammad Wilkerson was a premier player in this league. Then last year, he fell off a cliff.
He sure did, man.
And I am 100% blaming Sheldon Richardson for that. And Todd Bowles did nothing to stop it. He is an inept coach. It's one thing to have problem children on your team. Every NFL team has someone who isn't that great in the locker room, who's not a Boy Scout.
Gotcha.
But there are coaches that can handle it. Bill Belichick can handle it. Ben McAdoo can handle it. Every single coach in the NFL needs to be able to handle it, and Todd Bowles can't.
Got you.
I still can't get over the lateness comment. He doesn't care if you run late. That infuriated me. You remember that?
Wow, yeah.
Remember when he said that?
Yeah,
that infuriated me. Guy's a horrible coach. This Jet locker room is going to blow up by October. And honestly, I'm just going to sit back and watch the fireworks.